Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. For today's video, it's right into the replay, which will be against none other than HD Susauer, one of the strongest 301 players who recently won the EU Weekend tournament. Now looking at the packs for me, it's straight into Spider Fang with the Sabertooth Specialist, one of the best packs I think for aggro still, even after the Spider nerfs. For HD, I'm expecting something a bit more conventional, likes to play the long range game, likes to play defense, and we'll be picking up the sledges with the arc lights here on Marksman Specialist. So round 2 will be a big round for both of us. He gets access to his level 3 Marksman and I get access to my Sabertooth. It's also the reason why here you won't see me buy any single target DPS, because I know that I'll get that on round 2. And it's quite common with spiders. You can buy Marksman, but Marksmen are not the best for aggro at least. They're quite slow. You only get one body. Phoenixes tend to be a better fit for that. They're faster. You get 2 of them for the price, or well, for 1 deployment. And they also have more DPS. So here it's just going to be double crawler. I'm expecting kind of the same from my opponent. I might struggle. I think this is a spider favored matchup, at least in the long run. Spiders are very good into Tarantula. But on round 1, especially with these arcs, he does have very good chaff clear and a lot of hit points on the board, which might be a little bit too much, but maybe we can grab a debuff. We'll have to see how this goes. And you'll see me here go for that mix of the fangs I started with and the fast crawlers. The fangs are nice because they're a bit slower, like the tarantula, so they stay close to them. And I put some late fangs in the back to function as a late chaff wave, but also to kind of protect my flank from any air shenanigans like a flanking phoenix. And we're doing okay here, but one of my spiders already died, and the other one gets pulled towards the center, doesn't go for the debuff. And that will mean that round 1 here will be going over to HD. Now round 2, get a choice of pretty much improved firepower control system. I think is the only thing here that's really valuable. Can consider advanced shield device, but for me on aggro, can be hard to deal with. But the improved is certainly nice. Fits well into something like a tarantula. If it levels, it can be a real menace. For HD, it's a bit trickier. Again, advanced shield device is something he might consider for like a tempo shield, but it's probably better to skip, and he might want something different with the resources that are available to him. And yes, so this allows him to get double Stormcaller here on turn 2. A nice pick. I do have those fangs in front, so he gets good targets right off the bat. And Stormcallers are quite good into the tarantulas early on. I do pick up the improved firepower control system. I go for one more fang and another tarantula. And instead of going wide here, which maybe HD was expecting, which would explain the symmetry, I am going onto the shallow flank, so kind of avoiding this Stormcaller for now. Don't have the resources to level this tower, which I normally would have done, but with only 50 resources, a missile will have to do, and this is to protect this tower from any shenanigans like a flank wasp or some crawlers, whatever it may be. Marksman, though, positioned fantastically, and with the help of those arc lights is locking onto some very, very valuable targets. Getting rid of all my tarantulas. The Sabertooth there that was added this turn gets killed as well, and this is not looking good at all on round 2. Lots of units still alive. The sledges, the 3 arcs, the 2 storms. And yeah, this is sending me down to already sub 3k on round 2. Not at all where I want to be. Let's see what round 3 brings. It's going to be 3 units. Now, Scorpion looks quite tempting. It's good into the Typhoon and the Fire Badger, good into the sledges as well, and just generally quite tanky, but I already have the Sabers. And Tarantulas are quite tech-hungry units. They will need tech upgrades, things like range, HE, before they start really coming online. And so resources are nice to get. And that's why you see me pick the Fire Badger pack here. It's the most valuable. At first I think, well, maybe I can run this into tower and get a tempo round and sell it next turn. But then I decide, you know what? Maybe I just sell it this turn and start getting some techs and other units that I might need. Opponent goes for the Fire Badger as well, and interestingly puts them all the way in the front. Scorpion again is also a pick here that I could have taken. It would do very well in this scenario, and actually pairs quite nicely with Tarantula. It's a very, very powerful ground comp, and you will almost always win the ground if you go for that, but obviously you do have a bit of a weakness against air units. And yeah, I sell out of the Fire Badger, I instantly range the Tarantula, and I buy one more Sabertooth, 2 more this turn, as well as a Crawler onto the flank here. Opponent goes for triple Fire Badger. Wonder what he's trying to do with that. Might click something like Napalm, which is not something I've been seeing all that much recently. Fire Badger seems to be a little bit on the weak side. Lack of range and sometimes even struggling just to DPS down chaff has meant that not many people seem to favor it that much, unless it shows up in the very late game. Much better round for me though. The range is certainly helping out, and you can see the Tarantulas get enough experience here to level up, so that'll be a bunch of level 2 spiders next turn. Big power spike for me. Sabertooth also doing a great job. And by the looks of it, we managed to turn the tide and prevent us from slipping down even further. Round 4. And the card that immediately grabs my attention is Efficient Light Manufacturing. This is a card that I used to skip, and I don't really know why. Well, it's expensive still early on, but it's a really good card, and it kind of fits my playstyle as well, because I like using non-giants if I can. And yeah, this early on, I will definitely be able to make profit with that. The nice thing is that it immediately starts paying off as well, right? If I get 2 or 3 deployments this turn, that's immediately 150 out of the 350 cost paid back. It is expensive though, because I also wanted to get the levels, so you'll see me sell out of a Sabertooth there. And then I have a decision to make. Do I want something like Triple Crawler, which I can do because they only cost 50, or like some Fangs in there? Maybe just 2 deployments and level the tower, which seems to be what I go for. We get a Crawler here in the back, making sure that I have more chaff waves. And that's going to be my round. So not really adding more big units, but just leveling the guys that were already on the board is going to make a big difference. And you see my opponent indeed going for that Napalm. Never mind the Napalm, also picks up the Sticky Oil Bomb from Tower. And we'll be using it this turn. Woof. No chaff for me, so the idea here for him is to try and get some coverage of fire all over the board and make sure that I don't have any chaff to protect my important units, which should allow his DPS units like the Marksman and those Stormcallers to lock on more easily. As I see this though, with the Stormcallers, if more gets added, I can think about clicking Missile Interceptor on the Sabres. But we'll just have to see here what the plan is going to be for HD. Looks like we're still in a good spot. Managing to survive the oil turn would be really nice. And yeah, with this full health Spider, I think we should be just fine. All it has to do is finish off this final Stormcaller on the right. And that means that we take round 4. Very close one though. HD still sitting comfortably at above 4k. Round 5, earliest possible second rotation of free units. We get Wasp, Phoenix, Vulcan, and Scorpion. Now Wasp here looks a bit annoying for, honestly, the both of us to deal with. And I don't really need the other units. I've got enough DPS. So I don't really need the Phoenixes, and the Phoenixes wouldn't be good against the Wasps. So that's why you see HD here already picking them up. I do take a fair bit of time here, but I think I should be picking the Wasps as well. And HD is even buying more of them. Straight into 4 Wasp. Never mind that, 5 packs of Wasp. That is a bit more than I was willing to commit to. I'm simply going to be having 1 on each side, protecting the tower, protecting the flank, arriving late, trying to be a nuisance, but that is a lot of Wasp. I decided to go for high explosive ammo here on those Tarantulas, since it'll be good against all these crawlers up front, and it's actually quite good into things like the sledges and the fire badgers as well, as it will often splash onto 2 of them. So even though you lose attack, you also kind of gain some DPS because you're now dealing damage to 2 units instead of 1. Sabres at the front still doing a fantastic job, and even though there is a bit of napalm, it seems like the crawlers are somewhat getting through. But yeah, that's a lot of wasps, and I don't know if I'll have enough left alive here to clear up that anti-air. Oh, well, those air units. Seems like that won't be the case. There's a lot of wasps in the middle. I only have 1 wasp left alive there on the right side, but maybe my fangs can do something. I don't know. I get a debuff. Is that going to be enough? It's still so many wasps, and the fangs have to come over. Managed to save my missile though, which is very nice. But yeah, this looks like it's going to be slightly too much. The wasps is making a run for the tower there, but it's not going to be enough. And oh, I do lose the missile after all. Not a great round here. Don't lose too many hit points though, and I can now see that my opponent has opted to go very heavily into Wasp. Now, we briefly saw the cards there, and I pick up a second efficient light manufacturing, which means that my non-giants now cost 100 less a piece. Opponent doesn't go for it, instantly double Texas Wasp. And I was expecting this. I have 2 choices here. Either I try to match the Wasps, or I go for something like Mustang. I didn't like the Wasp option because what matters in these type of mirrors is numbers, levels, and techs. And my opponent already had the advantage in terms of numbers, going for 5 Wasp. So it's going to be hard for him to sell out, which means that I was expecting him to commit to the Wasps and go for double tech. Because he might fear me going double tech, and that might be a very bad situation for him. So instead, I sell out of the Wasp and I say, you know what, you can have it, you committed to Wasp. Go do your thing. I'll just go into Mustang myself, and I'm able to get triple blue Mustang here thanks to that second efficient light manufacturing, and immediately give them range. However, there was a second oil offered as well, and so my whole board is on fire. So goodbye to those Mustangs in the middle, but I have some left on the right. And there's 2 that are sitting just outside the fire here, fighting valiantly, but they too sadly will burn up. Nothing too bad though, we managed to get rid of most units. And for an oil turn, I think I'll take that. It was also a bit of a setup turn naturally, because I had to get into Mustang, which I didn't have yet. Even more fire shows up though. We're really getting no respite from the game, but I also get additional deployment slot, which is amazing for me. So can't complain too much about this one. Getting the additional deployment slot means that I'll get even more of those units on the board, making even more use of efficient light manufacturing. And when you gain 100 on each non-giant unit, yeah, that is stonks. I immediately tech anti-air here on my Mustangs as well and decide to buy 2 more. I'm elite recruiting because, well, the elite Mustangs cost the same here as normal Mustangs would normally. And so we get 3 more Mustangs. Opponent did go for the incendiary bomb. I decide to shield. There we go. And I decide to level one of the tarantulas as well. I am loaning here to make this possible, getting the temp range. It is round 7, so I think that's doable. Opponent decides to go for melters, which is quite surprising to me. Melter I don't think is that good of a choice into these units. They don't really like fighting spiders. Spider mines can be a real nuisance. And honestly, Sabertooth is quite alright into the melters most of the time. With the range and the double shot, and with how cheap they are, if you get a lot of deployments down, it can be a real pain for the opponent to get rid of all of them. And if only one of them locks on with double shot, it will very, very quickly dispatch of the melter. And round 8, I mean, we're getting all of the duplicate cards here, and they're great together as well. Another additional deployment slot shows up, which of course I'm going to pick, because who doesn't want 4 free deployments, a potential 5th one from the tower, and then all your non-giants cost 100 less as well. Yes, my crawlers, I mean, all the 100 cost units here are free. And, I mean, this is just craziness right now. It doesn't happen often, but that's what happens when you can get duplicate cards. Sometimes the game will just smile upon you and give you this kind of complete nonsense. I get all the levels here on those Mustang. Of course, again, we're elite recruiting. I pick up a Tarantula, I pick up a Mustang, I pick up 2 crawlers. Making sure that we're kind of now building onto the right side. It took a while to get there, but now that I have the deployments and the resources, I can definitely make that work. Oil is back off cooldown, so we are shielding at least where the shields did not stay up from last round. And my opponent goes for Vulcans here with Incendiary Bomb. Also picking up an Absorption module, so really there's a lot of fire right now. But when I see this, I can think about something like the Missile Interceptor. It also means my opponent can't buy more melting points, opting to not take the deployments yet again, so I'm getting a lot of units here, right? My opponent has the benefit of having some giants, but these spiders and Sabertooth and the amount of chaff might just be able to contest. There is just so much to deal with. And also all these wasps in the back are kind of sitting ducks right now for my Mustangs. Quite a bit of fire on the board, though. Some of the oil landed, but the Mustangs stay outside, luckily. Melters are locking onto the Sabers, but this is a level 4 Tarantula with the improved firepower control system. Still well at the top of the damage dealt for my team. 350k, thereabouts. And yeah, big turn once again. Opponent now down to 600. Round 9. We get 3 units. Will it save my opponent? Or will it just make my board even stronger? I decided to pick up the Rhino. Was thinking about something like armor. Would be very good into the Fire Badgers. Would be very good into something like the Vulcan. But it's also quite a nice amount of resources. And you know what we can do? Yep. Just elite recruit for Saberteeth. Also make sure to take the Missile Interceptor here against that Incendiary. Oil Bomb has been added this turn as well, so I'm happy that I clicked this. And if I sell, I can buy even one more, which is what I do here, deciding to sell the Rhino, take the loan, which already allowed me to get a 5th deployment down. So suddenly, yeah, that's a lot of Sabers. Bunch more credits left to spend. I could think about something like Underground here for the crawlers. It might allow them to get through the fire, at least somewhat. But I can also just pick up more Missile Interceptors because I don't want my board to burn. And so that's what we do. But at this point, I'm feeling really comfortable about my situation. I can just, like, every turn now, I can just elite recruit 5 spiders, 5 sabers, maybe give them another tech. And it's just out of control. Like, what are you going to do? Like, my opponent can't keep up anymore because he didn't take the deployments. And he also just doesn't have the value from the efficient light manufacturing. So we managed to weather the storm early on. And, well, the game gave us the absolute nuts in terms of cards there with the double efficient light manufacturing back-to-back. And then 2 additional deployments back-to-back. And that means that we finish off this round on turn 9. Yeah, this was quite the crazy game. It doesn't happen very often, but it creates these very crazy situations. Honestly, for my opponent, like, by this point, it's probably been doomed if he hasn't picked the same cards or hasn't picked the additional deployments. It's just tough to deal with. I think he lost a lot of tempo there going for that 5 Wasp in 1 turn play. He kind of had to go for range and AA or gamble that I would go for Mustang and not pick it. But, like, yeah, it's tough. I do think that the right move here for me was indeed to sell out a Wasp. Again, I don't have those deployments to match, and I don't really want to go into a a bit of a 50-50 air fight where I can just go into Mustang instead and guarantee that I will have the better counter after a round or two. Yeah, if you like this game, please leave a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all the latest content. Let me know what you think about these double cards. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? You know, it creates some spice, but it can also create very frustrating situations if you're on the receiving end of it. Let me know. If you want to see me play live, please check me out on Twitch. And with that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.